thanks for tuning in. For the Looking Back series, I'm Marianne Pleva. This series focuses on local people who are living extraordinary lives. A Chester resident, today's guest is a well-known area artist. Before she was able to fully pursue her passion, she held a number of positions. Among them, a teacher, a journalist, a gardener, a business owner, and a sailor. A woman who attracts friends wherever she goes. She truly believes in living life to the fullest. I'm delighted to welcome Claudia Van Ness to our show today. Welcome, Claudia.
Thanks, Marianne.
Aren't you glad to be here?
Delighted.
I thought so.
Even though I have not led an extraordinary life.
Oh, come on now. So, let's start at the beginning. So where were you born and when were you born?
I was born on June 11th in 1945 in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. And you had siblings?
Yes, I had three. One of them died, and now I have two.
Okay, and there's your picture.
There's my picture.
You were a ball player from the beginning, huh?
No, I was never a ball player.
So, and there's your sister.
And
right?
my mother.
Uh-huh.
And that's at our house in Claudia, New Jersey.
Okay. So, let's see. We have another picture of your dad that was in the service. Okay, now we got the whole family here. So, what branch of the service was he in?
He was in the Army. And that's why we were in Louisville, because he was stationed there.
Okay. And how old were you when you left Colonia, New Jersey?
Well, I went to college, and that's when I never really went back there to live.
And did your mom work, or did she stay at home?
No, she didn't work.
She didn't work, so she stayed home and made sure that you were safe and sound and working hard and on task and all that. So from the time you were a child, did you always love art?
I did. I always loved art, and I used to draw a lot, and I would draw these elaborate houses for rabbits, and all these tiny rabbits all over the place, and they lived in trees, and I drew a lot of things. I really liked to draw.
Did you always like to draw animals? Is that your favorite thing? Or?
No, it's not at all.
Okay.
That was when I was young. But I like to draw people. I like to draw, a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
so did your parents recognize that gift that you had? And
yes. Well, my mother was very artistic. And so yes, they always supplied me with materials, and they were encouraging.
Great. So what was life like growing up in New Jersey at that time?
Well, that was after the war, and it was a New York suburb. It's very close to New York City. So it was a very suburban life. We had a cabinet over our stove that was made specifically to hold Jell-O, boxes of Jell-O, for instance.
Really?
Well, my uncle worked for Young and Rubicon, and that was his account.
Wow.
But so it was kind of that kind of life. I mean,
There's your
we had a lot of Jell-O molds and stuff. That's me, and my sister on the right, and my cousins, some of my cousins, few of my cousins.
So did you graduate from high school in Colonia?
No, Colonia didn't have a high school. I went to private school. I went to Hartridge School for Girls in New Jersey, in Plainfield. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. Now your dad did something. Was he in marketing, or what was he in?
He was in advertising.
Okay, because we have this photo of, it's like, that was your home,
That
right?
was our house. And this has nothing to do with my father's job.
Okay.
But he was a good writer, and he liked to write. And I can't remember why he did this, but that's me at that pass-through there with a make-believe, with a tea set. And my father wrote an article. for House and Gardens or House Beautiful, one of those magazines, about moving from a colonial house in another part of New Jersey to this house, which was a very contemporary house.
Yeah, it looks really amazing in that photograph.
And that was one of the pictures, and it accompanied the article. It's a long time ago.
So what brought your parents to Essex?
To Essex? Oh, that's a little scandalous. Their marriage was not in good shape in New Jersey, and so they had sailed in Essex. My father always loved to sail, and he had various sailboats, and so they had sailed here, and my mother liked to sail too, and so they thought they would start anew in Essex. I was at the time living in San Francisco, but and so they moved here.
So you were in San Francisco. You were in college at the time they moved.
Yes.
Okay.
For a while.
Okay. And they purchased a very significant house in Essex, which there it is. It's so beautiful. Now wait a minute. Yeah, it is a Hayden house, right? Hayden House.
I think so.
Okay, and it's right on the corner of Novelty Lane, and it's probably had other buyers since that, probably many.
Yeah.
And then it was a rental for a while, and there it is next to the other house they call the Foot of Maine, the brick house. So what did they do when they came to Essex? Did they patch things up, or?
They didn't patch it up. They patched it up for a while, but not ultimately. My father bought Pequot Press, or I don't know if he started it or he bought it. It was in that Smitty building in Essex.
Yeah. Oh.
And and it was a publishing company. You know, I actually don't know if he bought the publishing company or if he started it. I think he probably bought it. And you know, that even though he had an advertising agency, that was something that he was well suited for.
Okay. Yeah, and I never can remember if that was the original Smithy building, or if it was redone. It was the original building. Okay.
It was a Smith. It was
such an interesting building. So it was a Smithy for the Pratts, who are just like 2 doors down. So and it's nice that it's still there. Now, did your mom help him at the newspaper?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay.
And certainly not in the end.
Yeah. So you went to San Francisco.
I was in
school.
San Francisco when they, and then I didn't mean to come to Essex, you know, but I was at San Francisco. I'd been to college in New Hampshire, and then I continued my education at San Francisco State, and we went on strike.
You went on strike at the school?
As a school,
yeah.
The school went on strike.
So
it was during that time.
There was a lot of activities, and you said there were riots there too.
I mean, And so my husband at the time, long divorced from him, he was went back to school at Berkeley, and they went on strike.
Oh, okay.
So
a little interrupted.
We sort of came east, and we just landed in Essex.
Yeah, and your parents were still there.
Right.
Okay, so you had a child, did you, when you were?
I had a child when San Francisco,
when you were in school.
Jason,
Okay. So what other schools did you go to?
Oh my God. Before I went, after Hartridge, I went to Colby Junior, was a junior college then in New Hampshire. And I graduated from there. Then I went to art school in Paris. And then I went to San Francisco State. And then when we came back here, I went to Southern.
Okay. So you enrolled?
A spotty education there.
Wow, I think it's pretty amazing. So when you were at Southern, you signed up for creative writing instead of art. Do you want to?
Well, I wanted to sign up for art, to art major, but going back to San Francisco State, I wanted to sign up as an art major, but that line was really long, at registration. So I switched over to creative writing so I could get out of there. And I did that for a while, and I liked it. So then when I went to Southern, I thought I would be a teacher. And so I actually majored in English.
Okay. So you were impatient then?
And now.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I thought. So you lived on Pratt Street. Your parents must have been glad that you came to Essex.
Oh, well, they had their own drama. I'm sure they were. I did. Yes.
There's your house.
Yes.
Yeah, and that house.
That's still there.
It's still there, and it was modified at one time.
Right.
But
it was 2 apartments.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
okay.
and we had the 2nd and 3rd floor.
Okay. So that house was on the green, and when they were going to build the post office, they moved to.
I don't know about. I didn't
down
hear,
some
I don't
houses.
know anything about that part. But yeah, we lived there for a while.
Okay. Okay. The other story that I love too is that was a Pratt house. All right, Bill, who's the Pratt that this house was? Well, anyway, he left the money for the high school to be built.
Oh, for Pratt High School.
And when they moved that, they
didn't know
found
any of
his
this.
portrait inside, and now it's at Pratt House.
Oh,
So.
cool.
So all that finished the school. So what was your first jobs? What are some of your first jobs right out of college?
Well, except for like waitressing during the time and things like that, I got a job that I had no qualifications for, writing for the pictorial newspaper. It was a long time ago. And because the editor, who was also completely ill-equipped for the job, was a friend of my mother's. And I wrote for it, and I enjoyed it a lot, much more than I assumed I would. And so I eventually, or not too long after that, I sort of waltzed into the Hartford Courant's office in Old Saybrook, and with no training. I mean, nobody could believe that this would happen nowadays, but and they hired me as a stringer to cover Essex, Chester, and Deep River.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, that
And
was pretty.
so I did, and I really liked it. And the first story, you want me to tell you about the first story I did?
I do want to hear about your first story, but I just want to go back to, didn't you student teach?
Oh, right, back there when I was when I was going to Southern, I finished all the classes to, I had other credits, but to be a teacher. And then I went to student teach. And I hated it.
Okay, yeah.
Hated it so much. Was so not a teacher that that was it.
So were the kids?
They were
they
fine.
were college
They were
kids, right?
fine. They were fine little children.
Oh, they were little kids.
They were smaller. They were fine kids.
You just
it wasn't the
weren't
kids.
comfortable. It wasn't for
didn't,
you.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
want to.
Okay.
I didn't want to teach them.
Okay, so you're.
Somebody else could do that.
Yeah.
That's the most important job in the world, And I realized that my heart wasn't in it. It's wrong to be a
Okay.
teacher if your heart's not in it.
Because there are other people who love it, right? So
Well, hopefully there are other
leave
people
that
who
for
will do
them.
a better job.
You know what? I'm going to take a little public service announcement, and then we're going to talk about that. Your first story.
Oh,
your
yeah.
big story. So
My
we'll
big story.
Keep everybody sitting on the edge of their seats. So.
Outlets merging all over the country, communities are losing their local voice.
There's so much going on in the community that I think doesn't really, there's a lot of folks who are unaware of it. And I think things like this can bring it out into the community and in that way kind of bring the community together.
Information to our residents is the key to good governance. And with the national media and local media not often covering us, this is an excellent opportunity for us constantly to communicate with our constituents and also to have them communicate with us.
The best outcomes will be achieved through a community-based organization that grows its operation and scale by means of locally produced programming.
All of our content is volunteer produced, so we do shows from talk shows to music shows, working with high schools.
VSC-TV is committed to ensuring that the investment made to secure these powerful tools will pay great dividends in the community for many, many years.
We're back. And that was a good public service announcement made by Christy, who works here on public access. So, so now we can talk about that story. So tell us about the Hartford Courant story.
So here I was at the Hartford Courant, not knowing what to do, and not knowing how to do the job, and having no training or no. And I heard that a young girl had tried to join the Little League team in Chester, and it would become a controversy. And I think she finally succeeded, but I went and covered that, and then I wrote up this little story, and then that night, an editor from Hartford called me and said, "You don't have her name, you don't have her last name, you don't have her mother's name, you don't have these quotes, you don't have this, you don't." He's yelling, screaming at me, and I started crying. It was, it was really scary. He'd actually been an editor at Stars and Stripes, so he was a pretty scary guy. And so I went. I did what he told him. I called back the mother. I called the girl. I called the coach. I did all the stuff you're supposed to do that I didn't know you're supposed to do, and then they help cobble together the story, and the next day it was on page 1 with my name, and that was it.
And it was a big.
It
was a big story.
Yeah, now I have found my my joy here.
And they had a picture of the young girl. Did they? Did you have a picture?
I took a picture. I don't remember if there was a
Yeah.
picture of. I can't believe a photograph I took back then would have appeared, but maybe they went and took her picture.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty big story actually. So that was really a thrill for me. So I stayed in journalism a long time, though I never gave up art.
Yeah, that's great. So there's the Hartford Courant, just so we'll always remember what it looks like. And I think it's just the ball field, not the ball field.
Maybe
the one in
maybe it's the
Essex.
same one.
And it looks a lot different on a cold day. So now, how many years were you a journalist? And how long did you stay at the Hartford Courant?
Well, I stayed at the Hartford Courant for a while, and then I became full-time, and I worked in the Groton Bureau and other places. And then I quit, and I had an offer to become the editor of the Pictorial, it became the Pictorial Gazette. And I took that because it sounded creative to me. And I did that for 7 or 8 years.
Okay, and where was that located?
Old Saybrook.
Okay.
But the parent company was in Guilford.
Yeah. So
then I went to the Middletown Press as a features editor, then I went back to the Courant.
Oh, okay. And then at the Courant, did you do foods and stuff like that?
I sometimes wrote food stories, and for a while the food editor Linda Juke and I did these crazy stories. I don't know, elaborate things that we did, but I wrote some columns also. I wrote regular columns, and I was also a reporter.
Okay. So is there a difference between a journalist and a writer? A writer, that's it. Or are they kind of the same thing?
Well, there's a difference.
Okay.
Well, first of all, journalists don't write fiction.
Okay.
So that's one big thing, and there is some ways that you have to write as a journalist. And there's kinds of restrictions on it that are different than if you're writing a book or a short story, but the creativity is still there. I mean, you're still writing. And and that always comes from inside. So that's similar.
Yeah. And did you still live in the house in Essex on Pratt Street when you were?
I got divorced soon after I went to work for the Current, and so I moved to Chester with my children.
Okay. With your children. Okay, 2 children.
They were young, yeah.
Yeah. So you moved to Chester then. So how long have you lived in Chester?
Oh my goodness. I've lived in Chester, I don't know, 45 years.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You're almost like a native.
No, I'm not.
Chesterite. And did you meet your second husband in Chester?
I met him at a party in Old Lyme.
Okay. Okay. And his profession?
He's a doctor
Okay. And a sailor.
and a sailor, yes.
Okay. So you have, where you live now, you probably made a few moves, but
Right.
we have this beautiful picture. There it is. It's so small, though.
That's
That's a view from
Right.
your home, which is a wonderful
Yes.
thing to wake up
It
to.
looks
I think.
up the river to East Haddam.
Right, right. And then you're, although you both like to sail,
Well, he likes it a lot more than me.
so he's more the sailor than you are, but you've gone with him on a bunch of places, right? Where'd
Yeah,
you
that's
go?
him. That's Gordon.
Okay. And
Where he shouldn't be at his age, but there he is. Yes,
that's a
we
pretty
have a
recent
boat. We
picture.
have a boat. That's it. Yankee. It's a old steel-hulled ketch,
uh-huh.
and we keep it in Essex, at the Connecticut River Museum, because it is an historic boat. And we've sailed it to the Caribbean, and to the Bahamas, to Florida a couple of times, to Nova Scotia
Wow.
2 or 3 times,
It must
and Maine, places like that.
It must be great fun. And you're very brave. You guys
I'm not
are
brave, actually.
So when you
These
sail,
are sort of terrifying to me sometimes.
when you sail that, do you need more crew to help you, or
You
just-
do, in that particular boat you do,
Yeah.
because it's a complicated
Yeah.
boat and it's old. So, yeah, and then because I'm not very equipped to do it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I just don't ever know where the wind is coming from. I don't have a natural
Yeah.
affinity for it. I'm not very good at it. So, yeah, so we always have to take various family members or
Okay,
friends or
helpers,
whatever.
huh?
Yeah,
So that must be fun for them too. So
you'll have to ask them.
let me see. I know what I was gonna ask you. So the boat, you said it's historic. When was it built, and where was it
It
built?
was built in Holland in 1958.
Okay.
But it's Bill Cook, who's filming
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
probably knows more about it than me. But it was owned by a famous sailor,
Okay.
Irving Johnson.
Okay.
And he had 2 other Yankees that were schooners before that, and he circumnavigated about 12 times, 9, 10, whatever. And then he was, and he and his wife wrote a lot about their adventures. So that, and they lectured, in like town halls when
Oh,
there
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
television.
And they had photographs of the boat, did they? When
Yes,
they did
and
these
he
lectures?
was
Yeah,
a
that
very
must
good
be
photographer, and she
interesting,
was a very good writer.
Yeah.
She was brave. And and so they became well known within a genre, and that's a long time ago. So and there's not too many people still who remember them, but this was their last boat.
So I think we mentioned your children briefly, or at least one of them, but you have 2.
2.
And you have a couple of grandchildren?
I do.
So who's the artist of all that whole group?
Well, they both majored in art.
Oh, now that's them, right?
That's them quite a while ago.
Okay.
That's a long time ago.
That's such a cute
Whitney
picture.
and Jason.
Okay.
And they both majored in art. And Whitney lives in Brooklyn, and she's married. And she does do some art, but that's not her job.
Okay. And she's where does she live?
Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, okay.
Everybody's children live in Brooklyn.
So she does paint for fun,
She did.
though.
Well, she has a master's in art from
Yeah.
SVA School of Visual Arts, and so does her husband. But she works in a related field. But yeah.
Okay.
Neither of them.
And your boy?
Jason.
Yeah, does he?
Does he do art? No.
Yeah, no.
But he lives on a boat.
Wow, he inherited something then, huh? So, well, let's see now. While you were still at the Current, you've been all over the place. You
Yeah.
interviewed the head of the soup kitchen.
No, not the head of the soup kitchen.
Oh, the Shoreline. No, okay.
No.
Who was it?
I started the Common Good Gardens.
Okay, but I thought that you did a story about.
Oh, I
the
did a
soup
story.
kitchen.
Oh, I thought you meant I was. Yes, I
Yeah,
did. Oh,
okay.
I interviewed. I misunderstood you. I was interviewing the new head
Okay,
of
yeah.
the Shoreline Soup
And what
Kitchen.
was her name? Do you recall?
Patty Dowling.
Okay, because she was for a long, long time stayed.
Yes,
She just
and-
changed, I guess.
And so I asked her what they most needed, and I thought she was going to say money, but she said vegetables, and fresh
vegetables,
fruit,
right.
vegetables, and I don't know, it just clicked with me, and I think I was the president of the Chester Garden Club at the time. So I thought, and all these garden clubs, they all do the same thing. They repeat the same thing, And I thought, what if they all got together and maybe they could have a garden that could grow vegetables for this enterprise? I have a lot of ideas. I don't usually follow through, but this one I did. So I had a meeting, and
There's a garden.
yeah, and
One picture.
and well, garden clubs, and,
Yeah.
and very significantly, Barbara Maynard came from Old Saybrook, but others came, and they weren't very interested in doing it. They weren't. The garden
weren't.
clubs didn't really want to,
Okay.
plow up the Black 40 and grow vegetables.
Yeah.
And things. So, but some of them did,
Yeah.
and others joined in. And the first selectman of Old Saybrook at the time said, I went to see him, and he said we could do anything, any land that they had. But we needed land that had water. We needed to put this garden in. So I went to the Grace Episcopal Church, to the, they're not ministers, they're priests, I guess he's a priest. And I can't remember his name, though he's a great guy, he's retired. And I said, listen, I've been in your backyard, and can we put a garden there? He said yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That was
now
great.
we had to check with the powers that be, the vestry or whatever it was. But Bill Pace was, well, anyway, not to get into details, it worked.
Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of volunteers, and there were some volunteers or enough, and somebody I knew plowed it, and we started it.
And Bill Pace, just to complete your thought, was a select person.
He was a
right?
select
so he
person
really
at
liked
the
the
time,
idea.
but he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he really worked with the church
Right.
to make it happen.
And how many years has been going now?
I don't know. 15.
Yeah, I should.
I sort of bowed out of it after a long time, because you need new blood for these things.
And do you know? I mean, what changes? I mean, you probably don't know what changes. So.
Well, I know what changes we made.
Yeah.
I mean, we greatly expanded the garden.
Yeah.
And
then you got another well.
and we incorporated as a nonprofit. So it is a separate enterprise. So we grew and still do the vegetables and the blueberries for the Shoreline Soup Kitchen pantries.
And there was, let's see. Well, I will just say my take on it, because I went one day, and it was the most welcoming place. I just started this summer, and I really had a good time, and I learned a lot. But it's just an amazing place. Everybody was very welcoming. They have a few hundred volunteers now, I think.
Right.
But maybe they have.
Also a lot of innovation, gardening, and we became, an organic garden. But beyond that, we had, I'm sure it's even better now, a compost system. It was an unbelievable compost system.
The earth is so clean that I say even bugs don't go in there.
It's everything grows in compost. It's really amazing. We can make compost so fast. And a lot of innovations.
Yeah,
and I
a
just
lot
got
of
an
people.
email from Kate Wesley, the head of it, and now they've got a whole other plan to make, I don't know if you know, but gardens that are, waist high. And,
I remember them talking
so they're
about
still
that,
innovating, and that's great.
Yeah, and there is a plaque with your name on it, so they're giving credit to you as being the great idea and the innovator.
The founder, yes.
The founder, yeah. But now, and the other thing that happened is the day that the Navy comes. So that's a picture of the Navy people.
I'm sure they still come twice a year.
Working on the blueberries, I think, in that photo. And it was pretty amazing to see them come. They were so happy to be there.
Right, they're wonderful, and they do everything that you ask them. You know, they say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am.
They do.
And they're not like your children at all.
Yeah, they're more willing to work, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Unlike your children.
And of course, they're fit.
Yeah, yeah. So I happened to be there that day, and
Yeah,
we
that's
had a
great.
good time.
That's a great day.
So I think we have more pictures of these. Oh, there's your name.
Oh, that's nice.
So
A lot of people deserve to have their names in that garden.
maybe they'll put some more up another time.
They should.
but
Lots
for
of
now, there's plenty of room on the barn. So there it is. So you wanted to become an artist. You said when you retired.
I always wanted to be an artist. You know, I might have been an artist if I'd gotten in the right line at San Francisco State, you know, or hadn't gotten pregnant and gotten to go to art school somewhere along that line. But I did, and so you know, I always took classes, or of course, you know, pick me up things, and I drew and painted, and then so I retired early, and so now I've been pursuing art here for about 13 years. And I'm taking more classes, you know, workshops and showing, painting.
Is that more
showing.
fun than writing?
No.
They're both equal?
They're, yeah, you know, you come from the same place, but there's something to be said for journalism in particular, because it's, you know, you work in a big room with a lot of people, and it's exciting, and it's, you know, and it's over. You write it, it gets printed, and then it's over. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's over. But with a painting, it's there's more struggle.
I just have to say one thing that I wrote
There wouldn't
down.
be more struggle if I was it.
So you said about being an artist, it's exhilarating, frustrating, messy, and you enjoy every moment.
I don't. When did I say that? Did I say that to you?
I don't know. You didn't say that to me. I saw that from an article.
Blurb.
I saw that from an article, and I thought,
it's not enjoyable every moment. Hardly.
And you also said you thrive on chaos.
I do.
So is that the sign of a good artist?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Okay, so you have some wonderful paintings, and one of them there was some little, this one here.
Is that yours?
Is such a favorite of mine.
It's such a
mine.
favorite of Mary Ann's that she
mine.
bought it.
Yeah. So then you have
Yeah, I got into a series of I have 1940s dishcloths.
Okay.
Dish towels.
Yeah.
And I got into a thing of posing the fruit sort of as a part of the dish towel, kind of. You know, you can't altogether tell you know, it's a little hard to tell the difference.
Okay.
So and I don't. Those are watercolors. I still once in a while do it because I love to do it.
Do watercolors.
No, I always do
do-
watercolors, but I mean, I also do some other things. But I do acrylics and stuff.
here's
That's
another-
a watercolor.
yeah.
That's Chester Creek.
Let's see. You have it's a beauty.
That's a collage, actually. Which you can't really tell, but it is.
And that's an interesting.
acrylic.
Yeah. And why did you paint that one?
Well, it was a model in a class that I was taking in Guilford, and actually she was black, and she was 7 months pregnant.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, you touched
So
her
I
up.
did a lot of changing, and not that she wasn't beautiful, not that I didn't want to pick that, but things evolved, and this is an interesting painting. It sort of shows. I'm very interested in pattern, you know, and I rather have some clothes on the body so I can do some patterns.
Okay.
So I changed everything. Obviously, I changed everything there so I could, you know, play with pattern.
Okay. And what do you prefer? That you use?
The medium.
That's the word.
That's a collage, but it's mainly an acrylic. I like them both.
Okay. acrylic and
watercolor, and I
Watercolor.
like to do collage.
and you do oil painting too?
I never have done oil.
Oh, you
I mean, I
don't?
did in college.
Okay. Huh.
That
'Cause
was
I
the
thought
last
that's
time.
what you had here.
No,
So,
I have no oil painting. I'm too messy for oil.
okay. So in addition to being an artist, and maybe because you're an artist, you're also a collector, right?
Well,
You like to collect lots of
I do like to,
things.
but no, but that's, I like to collect unimportant things that actually make a pattern.
Okay,
So, I mean, I have a big collection of Christmas nesting dolls, and also another collection, embarrassingly, of Easter nesting. There are the Easter nesting dolls,
Just
just
say the
some of them,
word.
not nearly all of them.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, but those guys only come out at holidays.
Yeah. And,
And that's a
small
little collection of, you know, ordinary little tops.
Uh-huh.
I collect those, and I have snow domes, but that's an ended collection.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some more Christmas guys.
Uh-huh. For Christmas.
I never spend a lot of money on any of this. I don't buy antiques. I'm not very interested. I mean, I'm interested in them from a historic point of view, but I'm not interested in owning them or buying them. I never spend money on these things. Now this is embarrassing.
Okay, so now
I'm
that-
on television having to explain this. This is embarrassing. These are a fraction of the blue and white plates I have, all of which have boats on them. That's what they
Okay.
have in common. And though that is a teapot,
There's a nice
I'm very
sailboat.
into tea.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
I'm in a tea group. And
Oh,
we have-
you are?
Yes, we just had a tea. Yes, it's part of the
Oh,
Herb
how
Society of
interesting.
America, and which I'm a member. Connecticut, the Herb Society of America, which is a horticultural group. But we have tea every month. And we just had tea at the Bee and Thistles, America.
Oh, nice.
And so all those teapots have sailboats on them.
Well, it's a wonderful collection.
All of them, yes.
So,
embarrassing.
is your studio inside your home?
Yes, it's one of the rooms in my, that's it.
And look at how neat your desk is.
That's not neat, but I took that picture because to use it as publicity on a studio tour of Essex, Chester, and Deep River, which I organized last
Okay.
fall. So I kind of staged that. Usually it's much worse.
And so what do you do when you're not doing art? Do you like to get together with your cousins?
My cousins, yeah, sometimes.
I only say that because we do have this nice picture.
Oh, yeah. Yes, those are my cousins.
Your cousins.
And those are my female cousins in Greensboro, Vermont, where we had a reunion there finally. We went there for a couple of years when we were all very, very young. Our grandparents had a house there on that Lake Caspian. And I mean, we were very young, but we all remembered it. It was like one of those seminal things you don't forget. So we finally went back there. We rented a house near that house, and we spent the weekend.
Okay, great. It looks like a lot of fun.
It was fun.
But I do want to leave time for, you had a wonderful idea about a gallery, Maple and Maine. And,
Well, I don't know if it was a wonderful idea, but it was another thing that sort of just happened. I didn't give it much thought. And this was about 9 years ago. It was 9 years ago. That building in Chester.
yeah, on the corner.
Yeah,
Oh, this is, yeah, you and
which is
another
an
artist.
historic building in Chester, and a very wonderful building. That became vacant.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to some other artists, and I don't know how I got into this, but we thought it would make a good gallery.
Uh-huh.
So
And previous to this, you never had a gallery, just
I
would
never.
Okay, you would show
There's the last
paintings.
thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Even I knew it was a bad business, and I didn't want to go into business. I'd never even, I've never been in business.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. and I don't care. I don't want to know anything about it.
Well, it was a perfect location. I
It
think
was
that's
a pretty
what
good
drew you to
location,
it.
and we had meetings and of artists, which back then I didn't even know that many, but you know, I did know how to find people. That was, you know, as a journalist, I knew how to dig up people. So we did, and we started it. I mean, it was
And it
nuts.
was good, though.
It was a very good experience overall. I didn't own it. You know, I never owned it. Nobody owned it. It was a co-op or an LLC, and then it became a corporation. But I did start it, and I did last through it, but and was very involved. But it was a good experience because I learned something about business. And because I met a lot of artists and made a lot of connections, and got to know the downtown, and it was altogether a pretty stimulating thing.
It's a great spot. And now it's empty? Is it now?
It is empty now. I don't know what they're going to do. We didn't own it.
Yeah,
Thank
you didn't own
God.
the building.
Yeah.
But it was a great idea, and people talked about that for 8 years. I know it was very popular, and you had little workshops there, and
Yeah, it was popular,
Yeah.
and people miss it.
so that was
But
a
I don't
great
miss
idea.
it. You know, it was.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and
Yeah.
its time was done.
The other thing that you did, you had the great idea, and you actually put it into action, was your
I'm afraid of what you're going to say.
tour. No, the tour of the Artist Studio Tour. I'm not sure
Right,
what
we
you
did
call
that.
it. There it is,
There
River
it is.
Valley Art
yeah,
Tour.
that worked out really well, and we're going to do that again
Yeah.
this next year, coming year.
So how many artists
There were
did you have?
25,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to have a show at Earth and Fire, the gallery at the top of Main
Okay,
Street in
yeah,
Essex,
yeah.
at the end of January, for 3 months. We're going to show there, and then we're going to have our tour again in September.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
the tour.
it was. That worked out well.
And I think the artists did pretty well.
So yeah, we did, and we liked it. We had a good time. There's a lot of tweaking that needs to be done.
Do you
because we didn't
think
know
it
what we were
was
doing.
too many artists, or do you think it was too
No,
few
there wasn't
artists?
enough time to see all
Yeah.
all the studios, so we'll have to expand it.
So you do a
this,
2-day.
This coming year, we're going to also have a show at the same time of our art at the Essex Art Association, and we're going to have an opening on that Friday, so people can come get the pamphlet, and I think it'll give people a better chance to see all the art.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. How many artists were there at Maple and Main?
Oh my goodness,
I'm jumping back
at
to
different times.
Yeah.
There could be 50 or 70.
Yeah.
We had a lot of artists.
And they were pretty from all over the region. They weren't
They
just
were from
Chester.
yes,
or-
they weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't. None of them were from Chester ever.
Yeah.
Except
Oh,
me.
isn't that's
weird?
interesting? Yeah.
Because there's a lot of artists in Chester. They were from all over Connecticut and some beyond.
Okay. So that's going next year. Your
Tour,
art
yes.
show, your river tour. So we're getting toward the end of this show. Oh, by the way, if you've just tuned in, I'm talking to Claudia Van Ness. I said that I was going to say that, and I forgot to say that.
I talk too much.
No, not at all. I guess what I want to know is, I know you're still doing all kinds of stuff. What's next, I should say? What's next? What's the mind going to think of next?
What am I going to do next? I don't know. I'm doing art. You know, I'm showing a lot of places.
Yeah, yeah.
That's evolving. I don't know what I'm going to do next, you know?
But you've achieved many of your goals.
I achieved the goal that I had when I was a child, to be an artist. You know, and I feel good about that because I've led a not a well-planned life, you know, and so I didn't really deserve that.
An eclectic life?
Yeah, or a life that was led by happenstance.
Yeah.
And so I was very lucky that, fortunate, but I must say, I always knew that I would be an artist. You know, I always knew that when I retired, I would be an artist.
And your husband supports you a lot, doesn't he?
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. I know he has chairs for you He puts chairs together for you because I was there.
Yes.
So I think we're just about out of time, but it's been a real pleasure to get to know you and to talk with you.
Well, thanks for having me.
And I think that I'm going to say this concludes today's show, and we hope that you have enjoyed and learned from this program. If you would like to be on this show or host this show, contact me at Conteza, CONTEZSA, @gmail.com. And remember, the shows air Monday nights at 7 o'clock on Channel 19. And also you can watch any show anytime just by going into the station's website, Valley Shore Community TV, also www.bsctv.com, and following the prompts for the Looking Back series. Thanks for our crew today, our very faithful crew and competent crew: Bill Cook, Chris Morgan, our access coordinator, and Christy Kaminsky, without whom we couldn't have done this. And a very, very special thanks to Claudia Van Ness. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, and thanks for watching.